Oh hey Elasmites, I didn't see you there. Get it? 'Cause I can't see you? Because I'm in your ears? Anyways, thank you so much for listening today for episode 2, and I've said it before and I'll keep saying it, but this is also my journey to learn more about amazing underwater creatures, and today, whew boy, did I learn a lot. But before I introduce this week's guest, I've got a few things to talk about up top. And so first, I'd like to thank you so much for those of you who listened to the previous episodes, and I highly recommend it because you'll not only get to hear great content, which who doesn't want that, but also because you'll find out more about some great promotional ideas that we're working on here. And leading into that, please do not forget to rate and review this podcast, and then send your review to elasmospod@gmail.com so that you can be entered into a drawing for a fun surprise from episode 1's guest. And if you already sent your review to me last week but didn't win, then you can share this podcast on social media, tagging elasmospod, and still get 2 entries into the drawing. And people reading and reviewing this week can also share on social media, tagging elasmospod, to get 2 additional entries as well into the drawing, just as a little incentive. So rate, review, share on social media, and email me at elasmospod@gmail.com. And you can find the Elasmos Podcast on Instagram and Twitter at elasmospod. You can find our Facebook page, the Elasmos Podcast, A Shark's Universe, on Facebook. You can find our website at elasmospod.com, and our Patreon page is patreon.com/elasmospod. And it really means a lot that you give to support this podcast so that I can keep bringing high-quality shark information directly to your learning minds. And Patreon donors, I am working on some fun extra content and ways to interact with me in this podcast, so do make sure to give so that you can be a part of all that goodness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, you can give at patreon.com/elasmospod. Okay, and last little thing before we get right into this episode, I'm wanting to do a listeners type of episode, so if you have any shark, stingray, skate, or sawfish encounters, or to be honest, any fun diving or swimming stories, please email those to me at elasmospod@gmail.com so that your story can be told and we can encourage ecotourism, which, as you'll find out, is very relevant to this week's episode. And man, if I'm not good at segues. That brings us to this bloody good episode starring the founder and director of the UK charity Shark Guardian, who joins us all the way from Bangkok, Thailand, Liz Wardsing. So she hopped on a call with me at 8 in the morning her time and 9 at night my time to chat with me about how Shark Guardian became the influential organization it is today, what shark finning is, Seaspiracy, what sustainability really means, the power of petitions, basketball center Yao Ming, the value of an alive shark versus a dead shark, and how to get involved with sharks in science. So buckle up everybody, because this is going to be a wild ride. So away we go! This is episode 2.
And then I met Brendan, and then everyone was like, okay, you're probably not going to come home. So I met Brendan Singh. So he's the other half of Shark Guardian. He's the other director. We created it together.
So you might notice a little chirping in the background or a little wind sound in the microphone on Liz's side, but she's just sitting on her porch in Thailand, letting the nature come in. So let's just appreciate it together and be zen.
Well, when I became a scuba diving instructor, I already started to learn what was happening in the oceans. Not so much about sharks. I just knew that all the pelagics, I think the stat even at that point was between 80 and 90% of the pelagics had already disappeared. So I started to become more aware and do a bit more research about what was happening in the oceans.
If you haven't noticed on this podcast, we don't dilly-dally. So Liz and I decided to dive right in. Oh my god, I just realized I already used that pun in the first episode. Oh, already lost originality. Alright, well, it can only get better from here, right?
And then Brendan did a presentation when we were living on Koh Lanta for a while. And I learned what was happening to sharks, and I was shocked. and there was all these other professionals from the dive industry who also had no idea what was happening to our sharks. This was 2009. Rob Stewart's Shark Water had been released in 2007. So, once you kind of watched that and started to learn the other information, it was just mind-blowing what was going on, but no one knew about it.
Yeah, that really is. I mean, it's hard to believe that no one knew about it, but I love hearing people's origin story and how they got wrapped up into marine science, and everyone has that. And it's really just an eye-opening experience for them.
Yeah, you sometimes don't know what your passions are or what your calling is until you're immersed in it. I mean, we carried on working, and we didn't know we were going to create Shark Guardian into anything big. Brendan kind of had these pieces of paper when we first met of all these schools, because a lot of the teachers from Bangkok and other places used to come to Koh Lan to travel and dive in their holidays. And he used to do these mini presentations on sharks, because he's the marine biologist. As I say, my background is physiotherapy. Brendan is the one who studied sharks in South Africa, where he's from. So he's the shark guy.
Okay, does this sound like last week's episode to anyone else, where one of them is a shark scientist and the other one works in exercise science? This is kind of a wild coincidence, but either way, they all like sharks, so all is good with the world.
And he had all this information he wanted to share. So as a scuba diving instructor, that was the best platform to reach a lot of people. So we worked on Lanta, then we both worked in Indonesia in different places, and then we ended up working in the same place in Indonesia, a place in it's called Bunaken. The diving in Indonesia is some of the best in Asia, definitely.
So Indonesia is one of the world's most well-known spaces to see the most amount of fish and animal diversity in the marine world. And so you can see all kinds of species, from whale sharks to manta rays to frogfish to cuttlefish. And cuttlefish are actually not fish. They're squid-like creatures, so they're related to squid and octopus, and they're really cute. I did my senior project on cuttlefish sex, on the cutest sex in the world. Wouldn't that be fun? Anyways, back to how Shark Guardian got started.
And Bunaken used to be amazing for big fish, pelagic. Again, so when we worked in Thailand, Brendan started working on Koh Lanta in 2004. By 2009, when I was there, the amount of sharks that we were seeing, especially leopard sharks or zebra sharks, you was lucky to see one or two a whole season, let alone you used to see 3 or 4 on every single dive. So we had seen these rapid changes, and then Bunaken, we saw rapid changes of the big fish, and even just reef sharks. We were hardly seeing any. We were seeing this happening underneath our nose. We had started to do presentations every week for our guests at this resort we worked at, and we just realized we had something quite unique, and we knew what was happening. We were like, we've got to do something. We've got to try and do something before it's too late, because this is a real critical time. So that's when we left that job, the start of 2013, again armed with a list of emails of different school contacts in Thailand. So the plan, first we did a mini tour in Thailand, and then we went to Hong Kong, and we went to places in Malaysia, and it just started. That's essentially how the official Shark Guardian started, although Brendan had been doing stuff himself since 2009, 2010.
Oh, wow, okay. I was wondering what the tipping point was for you both to start realizing that, okay, we need to start this organization and to put out educational material to teach people about what's going on. And no better way to understand it than firsthand experience, seeing the leopard shark slowly disappear from season to season.
Yeah, we just went to share. The initial presentation Brendan created is very different to what we have now, because now we have lots of photographers, and videographers donate a lot of amazing material. But we started in the schools, but quickly then started to do stuff with dive communities as well. Because, as I say, even though I was a dive professional when I first heard about what was happening with the sharks, the understanding, the knowledge is still quite low, even in that, even though you're working in this environment all the time. So we started to do presentations for dive communities as well, and we said, we are shark conservation for divers by divers, and we quickly gained a big respect there. So we started off doing shark guarding, going into schools, then it grew into what the potential we had for the dive communities, and then we started to link with dive clubs, dive schools later that year. So we became an official charity in the middle of, so it was July 2013. So we went on the road for a few months. We realised we had something special. People wanted us. All off our own back. We were like sleeping on friends' bedrooms, floors, and taking the night bus from Bangkok to Bangkok and stuff. And then so then we started to do stuff. We went to Indonesia for the first time. So again, then we started to get dive centres who were interested in supporting us. So having our merchandise. So that was the early days of shark guarding. But what we are now, it took us 5 or 6 years to decide our different arms. So the education is a massive part, but then we have the research, the conservation, and the expeditions. So, we have the dive centres doing bits of research and education as well. We have the education in schools and books and things. And then the other aspects, which I know we'll talk about a little bit more, but that's, early days, we just hit the road, but then even then it was starting to evolve, because I say the dive centres and dive staff were very much respectful of us, because they were like, gosh, well done for actually just getting out there and trying to do something rather than moaning about it, because far too many people were just moaning about the lack of sharks and fish species.
Yeah, and I do think it's hard. It's hard to take that first step to move away from just saying that things are going wrong to sharing that things are going wrong and we need to fix it. It's a big step, but that's awesome that you and Brendan are able to do that, and that you're able to do it in such an interesting way, as your organization is by divers for divers. And so you're able to work through dive centers and help them and promote them. And like your work, you're encouraging ecotourism. So it's really cool that you're able to promote the welfare and saving these animals so that these dive centers can get even more business, because they're here to see the animals, especially in Indonesia where there's such a great diversity. And so now I just want to go back to the basics of what your organization is about, and I'm going to ask a stupid question, but what is shark finning?
Yeah, no, it's not a stupid question. A lot of people don't know what it is because it's happening in the ocean. So proper shark finning is when they pull the shark out of the water, normally by a long line. And a long line is a line, and again, I don't know if you've seen the recent Seaspiracy. It was on the documentary End of the Line. If you've not seen both of them, watch them. But End of the Line was 2009. The information has been out there a long time. Seaspiracy is not new with some of the stuff it talks about.
Liz is right. If you haven't seen Seaspiracy, you should definitely go watch it. It's only an hour and a half, and it's a great documentary about all just the flaws within commercial fishing and how it's just devastating the planet. And it really points out some really key issues regarding plastic pollution and especially seafood consumption. It's got me thinking about my seafood consumption as I live on the coast, and how I don't know if I want to support that anymore because, of what they showed in the documentary and just how it's so terrible for the environment and these animals. But needless to say, I do want to cover Seaspiracy more in depth, and so I probably will do an entire episode or multiple episodes on Seaspiracy, talking to some fishermen or some scientists about what they think about the claims that Seaspiracy made and how true and impactful it all is. But either way, it's got a great message to act now. So go watch it. It's really good. Bring some tissues. And it's also got some graphic images. So you heard it here first. And so now I'm told to go watch Cowspiracy. Oh boy, that's gonna ruin a lot of my diet. Well, no better time to become a cute little rabbit. Well, I guess the cuteness doesn't really come along with the vegan.
Oh, my life!
But long lines can be from the Earth as long as to reach outer space. That's, they can be miles and miles long, massive long, and you think of like just a fisherman with a line, just a plasticky wire line. We're talking industrial size, wire with hook after hook that just catches anything that's in its path. Dolphins, turtles, birds, fish, sharks, whatever. So So they're pulling up shark after shark, bringing the body, slicing off each of their fins, and then chucking it back in the water. And this is pregnant sharks, this is baby sharks, this is all species of shark. It doesn't matter, or didn't matter, and this is at the height of it. This was,
that's awful.
Sort of 2008, 2009, when it was really racket. And then it's still happening now. They say...
It's crazy.
The number that they give is 100 million sharks each year.
Uh-huh.
That's a conservative estimate. Some people just say that it's 70 million a year. There were reports a few years ago, I think it was Pew that did a study. If you took in, like what they think is happening on the black market, it could be like 250 million.
No way.
More. And that's every year. It's like 11 or 12,000 sharks per hour, if you think of it like that.
Okay. I just want us to take a second, process that number. 11 to 12,000 sharks are killed every hour. This is serious stuff, but...
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm. What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure? Stay calm! Wait. Everybody calm down!
Okay, now that we've calmed down, let's get back to talking about this terrible, cruel practice that people do to such amazing animals.
Yeah, so why they do that, why they chop the fins off, is because if they have the body on the boat, obviously it takes up more space. And this is also why you get illegal shark fishing, because you get fishermen out there fishing other things and, loading it on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
But then they've done some sneaky shark finning, so there's no shark bodies. But deep down below, in the freezer, in the hold, they have these boxes and boxes of fins.
Oh.
But, the cover-up is that they're doing normal fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the issue, because there's a lot of money involved in it.
And so the shark fins are used to make shark fin soup, right?
Yeah.
And is that a worldwide delicacy?
You do find it worldwide. It's mainly in Chinatown. I mean, it's not just the Chinese that consume it. The Chinese people point the fingers.
Yeah.
But it originated in China way back in the Ming Dynasty. Hundreds of years ago. It was classed as a delicacy, and I'm, doing my inverted commas fingers there.
Yeah.
It was just, it was possibly just like people started eating it, just like they start eating anything. They just, they make a dish out of it. So it became a thing, and then because the royalty was seen to eat it over the years, it kind of became this, again, in inverted commas, culture, because it is not a culture, that people used to serve it at banquets, weddings, birthdays, because it was seen as still linked with the elite. So it was kind of seen as a status symbol. And because of that, it was an expensive soup. You took in a few $100s per bowl of soup in some occasions. So it became a status symbol, particularly in Asia. That's what happened originally. And then with the rising wealth of Asian countries, again, you're looking at the similar time span, 2007, 2008, over those 10 years, if you think of how the Asian economy has grown in that time period, and, that's why I've been in Asia, with people have more money, so people become more aware of it and think, oh yeah, let's serve shark fin soup. So again, even now, but especially in the early days, we were going into schools and there were these kids that said, yeah, I've had shark fin soup. I had it at a wedding. I had it at a birthday, because it's just normal. It's just what is done. And then you show them, tell them what actually happened, and they are gobsmacked. And they go and try and tell their parents, who won't listen. And they go and tell their grandparents, who definitely won't listen, because they're the ones who do not want to lose faith.
Man, good for the kids that stand up to their grandparents and parents saying that shark fin soup is bad and it's just bad for the animals. That's awesome. That's not courage that I would have had as a kid. Also, I'm definitely adding gobsmacked to my vocabulary. Okay, back to it.
So that's how it all happened. It began. Now, what you probably don't know, and what most people don't know, that the shark fin itself is absolutely tasteless. So first of all, you need a lot of sharks. It's the cartilage. So if you imagine, if you've ever seen dried shark fins, it's cartilage. So it becomes this hard structure that then you soak it with And this is the thing. They have to cook it with a broth. So whether that's pork or chicken or whatever, a flavour.
Are you serious?
Because shark fin is absolutely tasteless.
No kidding.
So they cook it with a broth, and it's for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Like, it's a long process. They need a lot of fins just to give it any kind of substance, this soup. So again, this is where it becomes expensive. And then if you look down the line at certain species of shark that then became a little bit more trendy. So you imagine a whale shark or hammerhead shark. People would pay more if they think they're getting this shark. So that's why there's these different prices. And this is, again, when the penny drops, that you're wiping out a species for a tasteless soup. All the people want is the texture.
That's crazy.
These days there are a lot of substitutes. Thank goodness there's a wave. There has been a bit of a change. There's been, blind studies where people can't tell the difference between the fake soup and the actual shark fin soup. And for health benefits, you might as well be eating vegetable soup for all that you're going to get from a broth.
Yeah.
That's the mental part.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I didn't know it was tasteless.
Yeah.
That makes me wonder how it just became a thing in the first place. I mean, if it didn't taste like anything, if you had to put beef into it or pork into it to give it taste, why not just eat the beef or pork and leave the shark out of it? That seems like a lot of extra effort for no gain.
Yeah.
And so you said it affects all species?
Yeah. So, I mean, it depends what waters are being finned, about what species you're more likely to get. But again, sometimes people have this, this idea that it's just the bigger sharks or the scary looking sharks that they're gonna be finned, and this is where the problems arise. I mean, we don't think it can ever be sustainable, although we would like to make steps for it to head that way, and we can talk about some of these policies shortly. But the fact that when they catch the pregnant sharks, and they've got and they would slit open a pregnant shark to then fin the babies inside. The sharks that do give live birth. So if those sharks are growing, for example, a hammerhead shark.
Oh my God.
There's been images of that, and that is shocking.
Oh.
And when we were in Hong Kong, we went down this place called Dried Seafood Lane. It's a very, very famous hub. It's a scary, because the drug trade is the fin trade is, you compare it to the drug trade. That's it, So, we saw these tiny, tiny little fins. And yeah, some of the fins could be from a medium-sized shark. It could be, the pectoral or the pelvic fins. But really, it's probably baby sharks with their fins taken off.
It's a great day for being sad.
And there are other fishing methods. I mean, you look at the poorer countries and the cost of shark fins. So there will be some just fishermen, fishing normally, who catch sharks as bycatch and then try and sell their fins on. So and again, they're not going to be bothered of what sharks that they fin. But yeah, there are a lot of pelagic sharks, that numbers have reduced massively because of shark finning from long lining and particularly in the open ocean. So yeah, they don't care what they catch. And there are obviously now regulations. So some sharks are protected by different laws. So CITES, it's monitoring it, and it's monitoring the import-export as well.
Wow, I can only imagine how difficult that is to monitor. And is shark finning the biggest looming threat to shark survival, or are there other threats?
Yeah, I still think that targeted shark finning and general shark fishing is the big threat to our sharks, definitely. Of course, pollution is now a problem. So, especially for our plankton feeding sharks, you've got microplastics floating around in the ocean, or just plastic bags.
Mm-hmm.
For these sharks, so we're talking basking shark, whale shark, and megamouth shark. They are filter feeders. So whatever goes through their mouth will get processed through their gills. And you're seeing this with whales predominantly because they're the bigger creatures that wash up on beaches and things like that. It might be that more sharks have been affected, but they've just, drowned and floated to the bottom of the ocean. Plastic pollution, obviously ghost nets is a big thing, catching all different species.
Okay, so I didn't know this, but ghost nets are fishing nets that have either been lost or abandoned by fishermen in the ocean. And ghost nets are a problem because even though they're not actively being fished by fishermen, they're still able to trap and catch things in the nets that eventually kill them. And a crazy statistic from Seaspiracy is that over 46% of the pollution in the ocean is lost or abandoned fishing nets and gear. So that means there's just a lot of fishing gear out there that can keep trapping animals. So that means we need to do more beach cleanups. Come on, people, let's go.
I mean, you even have your drum lines in places like South Africa, Australia, that are put there to deter sharks and to try and make the beaches feel safer for the beach dwellers and ocean dwellers. And there are, there's quite a lot of sharks that get killed in those defences when it's trying to deter them to send them away. Sometimes they get killed there as well. So, when we do our presentations, we talk about all aspects. And we talk about the fact that sharks are also killed. Again, it's always predominantly for their fins. Sometimes then the bodies are used for other things. So sharks their livers have an oil inside called squalene. So that's been used historically in a lot of beauty products. So that's something that people have to check on. Or medicines, you have shark cartilage and other things, especially in Asia, where they have these weird and wonderful concoctions where they'll kill all sorts of creatures for unproven medical benefits. Teeth, shark teeth, you have to be careful when you're buying shark teeth that that it comes from a natural source, if you like, because sharks' teeth do naturally fall out when they're hunting. So there are places you can go and literally scoop up hundreds of teeth and that's all cool. So we just say just avoid any kind of shark. Don't buy or consume shark in any way. Shark steak can be something that pops up on menus here and there. Shark is sometimes masked as other fish as well. So spiny dogfish is a shark. Flake is a shark. So there's all these different things that if you haven't got any understanding, it can feel like a minefield.
Okay, so moral of the story is do your research before you buy. And that's kind of the moral of the story for quote-unquote sustainability. And an interesting fact, so I did my research my senior year on the spiny dogfish. And the spiny dogfish is a shark that lives in the northeastern Atlantic, and it's often exported to England and served as fish and chips. Which I guess they're not wrong for calling it fish and chips because shark is a fish, but it doesn't tell you what kind of fish. And maybe some places are different and they might use different like haddock or something else that's not shark. But on NOAA's fishery website, it says spiny dogfish is often used for fish and chips. So do your research and stay informed. I need to work on this too. Okay, back to it. So Liz, how are you, Brendan, and Shark Guardian working to stop the fin trade, since it's such a looming problem and much bigger than the individual to solve?
Yeah, I mean, the shark fin trade is massive. We realised that early on. You can't do everything. And we started off with the education, and we keep staying true to the education side, because we say with the right information, people can make better choices. That's what it's about, being informed, as you say. So again, like in the schools, we're getting kids at a young age who are going to banquets and seeing the shark fin, that they're empowering them to be able to say no and trying to change their parents' and grandparents' minds. But that doesn't happen often. But we have kids, who come and just say, I just can't get my grandma to stop, and it's causing rifts, and all this, and it's poor things. So if we can change that, but also, the bigger picture is now when we go in the schools, we have to talk about just protecting our oceans as a whole. Mm-hmm. So if we can inspire kids to look into the bigger picture, then that's the main thing. So yeah, so that's our big thing, education. And like I say, we also work with dive centres. So they can lead courses to educate their guests. They can link it with their scuba diving courses. We have 2 children's books, and we donate them to schools around the world to spread this ripple effect of this information. Yeah, so if anybody who listens wants a book for their school, you just have to get in touch with us, and we send it for free. So that's a good project that we created.
That's amazing you offer free marine science educational material to schools around the world. I would have loved to have had access to that. Okay, so that's the education part of Shark Guardian. Now what about the conservation part?
Yeah, that's the education side. Then you have conservation. So conservation encompasses the different campaigns and projects we're part of. So we just felt you can't do anything we do things by ourselves, but collaboration is one of the best things. So, for example, we've been part of coalitions who have sent letters to airlines to stop them transporting shark fin, or also shipping companies, this kind of thing. So right now we're part of a campaign called Fly Without Fins that does that. And again, there are other organisations part of that. So again, that's trying to stop the trade. So we've got the education. If you can stop the buying, then there's a knock-on effect. Then you've got the different ways of shark fin being transported. We have Finspire Change. So this is trying to change legislation in the UK to stop people being allowed to bring 20 kilograms of shark fin into the UK. And we've linked with other organisations who have had success in other countries with that.
Okay, so we went over this last episode, so if you didn't listen to that, calling you out right now to go back and listen. But anyways, this Finspire Change initiative started by Shark Guardian finally came through Parliament in the UK and was passed into law, and now the UK prohibits the importation and exportation of shark fins that are detached from the body. So that's very encouraging and a good step in the right direction. So keep signing petitions for things you believe in like that, because turns out they do make a difference. Okay, I'll shut up now.
And then we've started this campaign again with other organisations to try and get the MSC to be more transparent with their dealings with shipping, with fishing companies that supply their fish, to make sure that they are not misleading customers who purchase fish that have the MSC label on them, who think they're buying a sustainable fish source, but actually the MSC does not have a fins attached policy in place.
Whew, oh boy. Okay, so the MSC, that's a topic that's covered on Seaspiracy, as Liz will say, but it's the Marine Stewardship Council, and it's a global nonprofit organization that works to end overfishing around the world. Okay, so now I'm done reading from their website. So it's really just a blue label that goes on the packaging of different seafood that claims that that seafood was caught sustainably and is beneficial for the environment. But one thing that Liz will explain a little bit more is, what is their definition of sustainability? Is sustainability just choosing the lesser evil when you're given 2 options? It's something to think about. But anyways, the MSC has become very controversial since Seaspiracy, and it's just a reminder to look a little beyond the label and see what that label really means, and if you can really put your trust in the label.
It's that little blue label, and if you look at Shark Guardian, you'll see a video. It's only in the last week or so this has actually gone live, and it was something timing. We didn't time it with Seaspiracy, but it was identified on Seaspiracy as well. So again, if you're buying fish and it says sustainable, or if it's got a label that you know and trust, you expect to feel confident with that trust. Well, it turns out that the MSC does not do checks or enough checks on the fishing companies that supply its fish, but also it does not have a policy in line with, now, and it's mainly in the European waters. So in any shark landed from European waters, it has to have what they call a fins naturally attached policy.
Oh, okay.
So, like I explained before, shark finning, chop off the fins, you can get more fins on. So how they have adapted the law in a lot of countries. So some countries have a flat out no shark fishing, no shark finning, done. They know how important they are. They know how valuable they are for tourism in places. Yeah, let's just do that. Others realise that it's not an easy thing to manage. So to reduce it, land the body with the fins still attached. So then they can't catch as much. So you think the ratio changes. So in Europe, that's what the law is. And this is when a lot of the fishing, the fish, the MSC, it's mainly in European countries, the MSC. Don't quote me fully on that. It is worldwide, but it doesn't have a policy like this stating fins naturally attached or, no shark fishing. But what we're calling on is to state clearly and transparently that any of the fish caught are linked to fishing boats that have a fins naturally attached policy. So, for example, if they're catching grouper or barracuda or whatever fish, that if they accidentally catch sharks as bycatch and then they keep the fins, they have to land it with the fins attached. But right now, not. So again, as I said, this black market thing that's happening, there could be a lot of fishing boats out there that are catching a lot of sharks and the customers are being misleaded.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So it's quite big right now, this. Very big.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. And how are petitions used to inspire effective change within a community or a country even?
Petitions can be used for policy change at government level. So the petition we had was to do with the Finspire Change campaign that we have. So that was last June or July that started, and it finished end of the year. I lose track now. We have so much going on. You needed a certain amount of signatures to get something looked at in Parliament, basically. So I think we needed 10,000 signatures to get a government response, and then we needed 100,000 to get the government to look at it. It's not guaranteed, but what we're doing now, there's MPs are being emailed and tweeted just to get different locations in the UK. If you can get the MPs on board, the members of Parliament, then they will all bring it to Parliament. So that's what happened. So yes, so petitions like that, or like, for example, there's been petitions for Amazon to stop having these kind of like baby embryo sharks for sale. So, if you have enough people that come together, it puts pressure on an organization. Social media is so powerful if used in the right way to bring attention to an issue.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. Fly Without Fins, it's all done by Twitter. Again, reputations of companies can drop overnight if you get the masses all saying bad things about you. This is what we're hoping with the MSC as well. They need to make an official statement. They need to, in this world that we're in where there's so much greenwashing, that term where labels, companies try to be eco, but actually they're just pulling the wool over your eyes. Blue washing is the new one for the ocean. Similar thing. So it's just about honesty. So coming back to your question, our petition wise is with the MSC, with Finspire Change. We have been linked with other petitions to try and get laws changed here in Thailand. They can be effective, but you really have to market them and push them. It was a big campaign with getting celebrities involved with Finspire Change. But ultimately, that campaign, it's such an outdated law. The thing with the MSC, there's no reason they shouldn't declare.
Yeah.
If they are saying that they're a sustainable fishing company that supports sustainable fishing, they should be fully transparent that they're not harming. Well, they're still harming sharks, but they're not encouraging or allowing brutal practices. That's what it's about.
Right. And that's so disheartening to hear that companies that you feel like you should trust, that are claiming they're a trustworthy brand, being sustainable and taking care of something that you care about, actually aren't trustworthy, and they're not doing what they're saying they are.
Yeah.
And so the best way to combat those kind of companies are to kind of make yourself heard, like through a petition or something?
Yeah. Again, and do your research. Look into anything that you buy or consume. Do your full research, because you might be surprised what you're supporting or what you're actually buying. That's the thing.
From different things that I've read or seen online is that Hong Kong is really the shark fin hub. And so, are y'all doing anything within Hong Kong specifically to try to reduce the shark fin trade, or in any of the other shark fin hotspots?
It's interesting. People think it's all happening in, China. There's a big consumption there, but actually they are not the big consumers. When you look at who does the shark finning, who exports, so Hong Kong is basically the hub. So wherever the fishing happens around the world, all those shark fins generally make their way to Hong Kong. Now, if you look at the top 20 shark finning nations, so who export their shark fins to Hong Kong, the top country is Indonesia. The second is Spain. Now, this is what people are very, very surprised at.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, and this was last updated in 2017, so it's pretty much still the same. So we've got Indonesia, Spain, India, Mexico, United States is number 5.
Uh-oh.
Again, you wouldn't think that. Argentina, Taiwan, Malaysia, Brazil, Nigeria. So those are in the top 10. But if you look at the top 20, so Portugal is number 12, France is number 13. So basically they say that if you took all the European countries together, they make up about a third of all the shark finning that's going on. So,
wow.
So again, people make the mistake of just saying, I don't need to bother about shark fishing and shark finning. I don't need to care about sharks. It's an Asian issue. It's happening over there. We don't need to know about this, okay? It is. It's happening everywhere. It's happening on your doorstep. So we need to be aware about this and try and make things happen to protect the shark. So Finspire Change was our way of trying to change the laws in the UK. There is a parallel project called Stop Finning EU for all European countries as a collective to get, this is again the power of the petition. All the countries, depending on the size of the country, have to have a certain amount of petition signatures for that to be then taken to the EU to change their import allowances rules and their overall rules to do with shark finning. So that's huge. That's huge right now as well. So that's definitely needed. Hong Kong. I have to say there is a lot happening in Hong Kong. There's an organisation called Hong Kong Shark Foundation. They do a lot of education in schools. We have been in schools. We've got somebody in Hong Kong that can do stuff on our behalf. But with things that have been happening in Hong Kong, the political situation, and then with COVID, there's we've obviously not been there for quite a while, and there are organisations doing what they need to. But even when we were there 4 or 5 years ago, there was already this wave of the younger generation, teens and 20-year-olds who were learning the facts and were making a change of saying no to shark fin soup at weddings and birthdays.
Wow, good.
Quite a big wave of this.
Good.
As was the same for China. The Beijing Olympics. Yao Ming, a famous basketballer, Yao Ming, led a campaign, again, to show what was happening, to stop the consumption of shark fin soup.
That's a tall order to stand up to the norm, especially in China. But if anybody could do it, it's basketball star Yao Ming. And I do mean that quite literally. He's 7'6", so he's probably tall enough.
So a lot of the big cities there now, it has improved, it has changed. It's still happening. It's a massive country, so, we can't ignore it.
Yeah, no.
But what's needed is, the countries like Indonesia, what was it, one of the other ones that I say, you've got these countries like, like Nigeria, or later down the list, we've got, Peru and Ecuador. We've got these kind of countries that need the help at a local level because these fishermen are being pressurized by the Hong Kong or the Chinese who are trying to import it, and probably getting such a pittance for each of these sharks that they're killing. But they live day by day, don't they? Some of these kind of, when you think of these rural fishermen.
And that brings up something that I've been thinking about too, is how do you convince people that make a living off of whatever they can catch? And if whatever they can catch that's profitable are sharks, then it's hard to convince them to leave that way of life because that's all they know how to do or all they've ever done. How do you approach that?
This is where other organisations come in. So again, we can't do it all, but we promote other organisations' work. So there's a couple of organisations working in Indonesia, one of which is called Project Hiu, Hiu, because that's the shark in Indonesia, Bahasa, the language. So they work at that level, and other countries as well. So they teach the fishermen to do tourism, ecotourism. So rather than killing the sharks, you can earn way more money by taking tourists to see the sharks in the natural environments.
Oh.
Or they become scuba diving instructors and again work in the industry. So this is what is needed, and we've been involved with dive centres who have supported such projects as well, training the locals to work in the tourism industry. We have a problem right now. We've had a year with a lot of these places that haven't had any tourists, and the knock on to that, who knows what that effect is going to have been on our oceans and our shark numbers over this period of time. Because again, these little fishermen, little villages, communities have had to survive. So I hate to think what's happened with some of those. But let's hope for the future when tourism does get going again, that the future is the ecotourism. There's some stats that come out of places like the Maldives and the Bahamas about the cost of a shark. I can't remember the figures offhand, but you can find it from Pew and Oceana. It's like $100,000 per year or something for each shark. What it's worth versus $20 or $50 for that shark that's been killed on that one occasion. When you work it out over its lifetime, it's massive what you can get from the shark being alive. They are worth so much more alive than they are dead. That's the bottom line.
Okay, this is just going to blow your freaking mind. In a study by the Australian Institute of Marine Science, an individual reef shark can be worth up to $1.9 million over the course of its life through the shark diving industry. But if it were fished, caught, killed, and sold for its meat, it would be worth only $108. And yes, of course I just did the math on my phone. And that means a shark is worth 18,000 times more when it's alive than when it's dead. Now, I'm no financial advisor, but that sounds pretty good to me. Wow, that's so interesting. I didn't realize that there were other organizations that would kind of help you with all that. Because I never understood how you could try to convert someone from a line of work that was a need for them, but it wasn't healthy for either other people or just the environment or whatever. But I wasn't sure how you go about converting them from one line of work to another. But that's awesome.
Yeah, the money is the key for survival and for sustainability.
Yeah, and you mentioned the black market. How do you even begin to monitor the black market or try to keep people from selling shark fins on there? Is there any way to convince them to pursue another line of work, like ecotourism, or do people not want black market ecotourism?
Yeah, I don't know with that. Yeah, giving people alternatives. If you know where the shark finning is happening at its worst, giving alternatives. Again, it comes down to the financial gain. Ultimately, the black mark finning that's happening out in the oceans, you can't regulate that. You can't monitor that. So and that's where we always come back to, if the demand stopped, so if people stopped wanting to eat it or consume it or use them in products or whatever, then the cost would drastically change and these fishermen would not be driven to do the black market sale of things. They once said the amount of, and again, when you go to Hong Kong and you see the bags and piles of shark fins that are there, they say that if shark finning stopped now, that there would probably be enough fins worldwide already dried to continue fueling people eating shark fin soup for a few years. Does that make sense? So there's enough already that they could just cook with until people change their mind.
Oh.
No. So yeah, I don't know fully, but that's just stuff that we've been kind of informed of.
Oh, interesting. So now it's also on the consumer. It's not just on the person who's producing the product or catching the product. It's also on the person that's buying the product or consuming it.
Yeah.
And if one or both parties stop, then it'll eventually go away.
Yeah.
So another hook in Shark Guardian's tackle box of projects and ideas is leading diving and snorkeling expeditions too, right?
Yeah. Again, they've been on hold for a little bit. So, that was the extra part of, as I said, so we have the education, we have the conservation, we do research. We don't, get in the field and tag sharks or anything particular ourselves, unfortunately, because then Brendan and I have done practically everything to get this charity where it is.
Yeah.
We now have some other people working on the team. Thank goodness. We have some amazing people working with us. But research has not been, we can't do everything as a small organisation with very little money. So what we've done is collaborate with scientists for specific research projects, and it's all based on citizen science. So that means that people can get involved.
Oh, cool.
Wherever they are. You don't have to be a scientist to take part in research. So yeah, we have several projects on our website people can get involved in. So then the expeditions, about 4 or 5 years ago, after doing Shark Guardian for 4 years and hardly doing any diving because we put all our efforts into creating what we have. So, you know what? We need to do more diving, don't we? So we started doing the Sardine run in South Africa. So that's an amazing yearly event. And so we take people on these expeditions and then do little presentations to educate, but also then take part. The main one is E-Oceans, where each dive or water activity, so snorkel or even just being on the boat, you can monitor. I mean, there's an app now for this E-Oceans, so you can say in real time what you're seeing, also what you're not seeing. So this was a big thing with this E-Oceans research in Thailand over the past years. We got past data from dive centres, or we got people's logbooks, and we're able to get a comparison, what people used to see versus what they are seeing. So that's awesome. Creating this map of what you can see, and there's trash on there now and all sorts. So that's something that everyone can do, but taking people to see sharks, so being in that environment and converting people, it's very easy to tell people don't be scared of sharks.
Yeah.
We talk about obviously how important sharks are as apex predator. If you actually see them and realise, all that I've been told in movies and books isn't true, that we need to coexist with these amazing creatures. So expeditions is something we're going to do a lot more of when the world opens up again. We've got things lined up in Australia with great white sharks. We want to do more in Indonesia. Komodo is amazing diving for all species. Maldives. So we have a lot of things. So do keep an eye on how we expand with that. And of course, Galapagos, we want to get there. There's so much research happening there.
Yeah, and so what kind of research do you conduct or do you help out with?
Yeah, so again, I mentioned E-Ocean, so that's the big one. We also have a leopard shark project monitoring sharks here in Thailand. People can take photographs of the shark, part of the shark that doesn't move very much, based on the same principles of whale shark research. So it's whaleshark.org. That's a global database, a bit like the manta matching. So you take these ID shots, it goes to a database, and they can track these sharks, and worldwide to see where they travel, to see migrations, to see where they hang out.
Cool.
So yeah, we just remind people and encourage people. So again, that's why the dive community stuff that we do is important, because the divers are there firsthand. And again, most of these have no idea that they could, often they're taking these beautiful photographs. It's like, well, if you just took this angle, this could show that this shark is coming back year after year to this place. And people do need reminders. So they're the ones. So they're the key kind of citizen science. But also a year and a half ago, we started giving a bit of funding to an elasmobranch project in Scotland, linked with the University of St Andrews. It was for monitoring an endangered flapper shark species. So that's been pretty cool, because obviously we're a UK charity, so it was nice to kind of start to fund that, and that is expanding actually. So we're can continue that support, because the area itself is a protected MPA and there are different shark species. So we hope we can be part of other monitoring, and maybe we can eventually have some internship programs linked with the university and our organisation. So that's where we hope we're going with that. Yeah.
That's funny because I wanted to ask you how you think someone can get into this field of conservation or marine science and research and all that.
I think it's a massive field, working in research, working in science, marine science particularly. There are so many different channels you go. Again, you've got to do your research, and going down the route of marine biology or different ocean-related qualifications can be helpful. But I mean, I don't have any qualification like that. My passion has come from being in the waters. So if you want to go down an education route, I mean, anyone can do that. I think, again, the power of social media, that these days anyone can have an influence. So if you just start sharing the Shark Guardian content on your social media outlet.
Did Liz just tell me to become a TikTok influencer? I think so. I think it's time the world see more of this gangly fella that listens to horror podcasts that keep him up at night while playing Sudoku. That's more of what the world wants to see. Right? What were we talking about again? Oh, right, how to become a marine biologist.
I have people that, my friends' parents that I grew up with who follow me and who share my petitions and have learnt so much because of me sharing stuff, and they are so far removed from the ocean. These are people who really don't get involved with anything, yet go, wow, why are we not being told about this? So there's that on a basic level. You can go to our website, you can download posters and leaflets. We have kids from schools who go around, to houses or go to other schools and just share this information. So it's very easy from that level. If you want to get involved with research, like with tagging sharks and monitoring populations, that's the university route, and you've got to research your university. Like, for example, James Cook University is huge for doing research in for Australia and other waters, and it's a scientist from there who we're linked with our leopard shark project. But South Africa is another hot spot, for great whites and the like. But it's a very attractive career. There are lots of people trying to go down that career. So it's just about finding your niche, finding something unique, getting as much experience as you can. So yeah, we do have people who come and spend time with us. We're not getting in the water with sharks all the time. We've not got an exciting, glamorous thing like that people think, but other organisations do, and people do need help because there's no money in conservation. That's the reality, and I think everyone will say that. So you rely on the volunteers coming and helping you to try and lift you further and do your cause. So, I guess that's the best thing I can say is we do your research and go spend time with some organisations who will need your help and see where it leads.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. A lot of people that I've met that have worked in the aquarium industry, they started out volunteering for years, and then they became more recognized through their volunteering, and they were able to get a job through the aquarium. So their volunteering passion became a career for them, which I think is really cool and a good low-stakes way to figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, find your passion and go for it. Don't let anything stop you, and enjoy the journey. I think that's it. Enjoy the journey. Get a thick skin to allow you to progress. But never give up. As a charity, Brendan and I have had so many ups and downs because it can be lonely. You can feel you're competing. In the world we are in now with social media, again, it can be used for such good. But again, you need a team of people to keep you out there in social media. This is the thing. So, develop a thick skin, get determination, and just never give up on that end goal. Find what you're there. What are you trying to achieve? And then you can make anything happen.
Man, I love that. That makes me so happy. And in a world that is as chaotic as it is today, what gets you out of bed every morning? What's something that excites you about the future?
Again, I see the passion with children. Every time we go back and do a presentation and we see their reaction, they are the future. They are going to make the changes. They have to. It makes me sad that my girls, they are 6 and 2 years old. Every time we go out, they're picking up trash. It's just become part of life. That's sad. But with the right role models, the kids are going to make changes. And you can see this with younger people, again, emerging on social media. We have a lot that follow us that are trying to do their own little podcasts, that are trying to do little interviews, that go down the beach and show what they're happening. So that's the positive, the fresh generation coming through. I also think this last year has caused people to have a shift in mindset of, okay, am I doing what I need to be doing? Should I be spending my time and money on something more worthwhile? I think a lot of people have woken up to the need to protect and nurture Mother Nature. We've seen ecosystems bounce back. We see it in Thailand, you know, a hotspot in Thailand, Maya Bay, with that they closed before COVID happened. You know, within a couple of months, the populations of blacktips had just expanded more than it had ever been seen before.
Wow.
Our oceans, our lands, they can bounce back if they are given a break. So even though the fishing industry is out of control, and that's going to take a long time to sort, people can make small changes, become more aware, spend more time in nature, be immersed in it to appreciate it. And again, all the little changes, every single tiny little change for the positive of our planet does make a difference. Just stay focused on that. We have to keep the positive vibe. We have to. We don't even want to contemplate the rest.
No, a negative perspective doesn't do any good. Nothing good comes out of being a sad sack all the time. Now, do you have a favorite marine animal? Or a favorite animal? Let's just do favorite animal.
Yeah, I talked about this recently. I mean, I absolutely love sharks, but I'm totally fascinated with octopus. I think they're an amazing, incredible creature. I actually just started watching My Octopus Teacher last night. Go and watch it. It's amazing. You know, anything that can change colour and texture and adapt the way it does. And again, this program, I have just been blown away by what I've learned about octopus. So, yeah, that's my favourite. Favourite shark is probably the leopard shark, the zebra shark, because I've had some beautiful encounters with them here in Thailand, getting very close to them. But I've yet to see a basking shark, so maybe one day when I see those, that might go top of my list. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I do love a good basking shark. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. It's been such a pleasure learning more about your organization. So that was the wonderful and lovely Liz Ward-Singh, the founder and director of Shark Guardian. And you can find Shark Guardian online at sharkguardian.org. And Shark Guardian is on almost all the social medias that I could ever think of. They're on Instagram and YouTube at Shark Guardian. They're on LinkedIn at Shark Guardian UK Charity. They're on Twitter at Shark_Guardian. And lastly, they're on Facebook at Shark Guardian Worldwide. And on their website, you can find information about conservation, education, and the research that they do, along with a shop that has great stuff for divers, for swimmers, and for just people that like to wear clothes. And the profits go to this organization that fund research and promote the conservation of these wonderful, beautiful, and majestic animals. You can find Liz on Instagram as well at Liz_Shark_Guardian. Alright, so now I get to interview myself. Okay, Sam, so where can you find this podcast? Good question, Sam. You can find and support us on Patreon at patreon.com/elasmospod. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at elasmospod. And you can email us at elasmospod@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page called the Elasmos Podcast, A Shark's Universe. And please rate and review this podcast, because then it gets opened up to more people and more people can hear about it and listen to it and learn about sharks and fall in love with them just like you and me. And remember, after you rate and review, to send your rating and review to me at elasmospod@gmail.com so that you can be entered into a drawing where you could possibly win something that may or may not be artsy from last week's guests, Miriam and Greg. So make sure you do that so you can get entered into that drawing. And if for some reason you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram at smcneely4335. And I want to give a special shout out to Wes McNeely and Connor Blake for making the amazing theme song that I still love and get chills every time I listen to. Wes can be found at wes.mcneely1 on Instagram and Wes McNeely on YouTube. Okay, now that we're done with the credits, on to my weekly update. So, 2 Christmases ago, I got an Oculus virtual reality headset, and it's so fun. I highly recommend it. It's really not that expensive for what you can get out of it and what you can experience. But so for this Christmas, my brothers and I got a new game called Population 1 to be able to play together wherever we are, because we're not living in the same city, so it's just our way of hanging out. And so we've been playing it together, and it's really fun, but there's a lot of like moving your arms and like climbing, and you have to it's a shooter game, so you have to like reload guns and stuff like that. And then you have to hide behind stuff. And so you're moving your hands a lot, and you've got these little controllers in each hand. It's like half of a PlayStation controller. And I've just nailed the wall before. I've just like really punched it. I'm amazed I haven't broken anything yet. My friend Chuck, he knocked out a light fixture and shattered it, and it was the funniest thing. I still laugh so much about it. But yeah, I have yet to break anything. But also, if you want to come play with me, my name is greeneggsand_am on Oculus. Alright, come on guys, let's all play together. And you can also go swimming in the ocean and see like Natural Geographic videos of people like snorkeling and climbing mountains in virtual reality. And it's a 360 view. It's crazy. It's really cool. So that's my update this week. I'm going to keep playing it next week, but I'll have a new update for you. I promise. And one more thing before we go, I'm interested in starting a listeners episode every so often where I tell everyone's stories about their encounters with different sharks, skates, rays, and hopefully sawfish. That'd be pretty amazing, wouldn't it? But yeah, so please email me any stories that you have about encountering any of these amazing animals or just any other animals in general, because everyone loves to hear about what you can see out there. And it encourages people to get diving, which is awesome. We love ecotourism. That's what this is all about. Okay, now I think I'm officially done. Thank you so much for listening, Elasmites. Stay cool, stay frosty. Alright, I'll see y'all back here next week on the Elasmos podcast. Later, skaters.